What is up, everybody? This is Ryan here with the Scale Up Show. Got an awesome guest today. I have Jeff Bzdawka, who, man, some really cool things that we talked about in this episode that we've never addressed before. He was a succession to a founder who died during COVID, who was a mentor. He is in a technology hall of fame, and on top of it, breaks down how to increase TAM in a capital efficient manner, while on top of it doing unlocks a strategy where by making some simple improvements to churn, you can increase lifetime customer value from 500,000 to 2 million. You're not going to want to miss this. This is awesome. Check it out. I'll talk to you soon. Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Jeff Bzdawka, currently the CEO of Knowland, which is Insight as a Service, and he's a seasoned leader in hospitality and tech. He was the COO at TravelClick, which is a PE-backed company where he led it from 30 million to 250 million. In addition, Jeff also served as the SVP of Global Hotel Tech at Hyatt, where he managed the property tech roadmap for 1,000 plus hotels worldwide. Jeff, what's happening?
Hi, Ryan. Glad to be with you today. And hey, by the way, good job on the last name. Most people don't get it right. So you did great. Thanks.
Well, I had to practice in my head a couple times, and I'm not going to lie. And the other thing we didn't mention about Jeff, so thank you for the compliment, is Jeff is also a member of the Hospitality Technology Hall of Fame. I had to put that in there, man. So congrats to you on that.
Thank you. It's all about the people I've worked with and the companies and organizations. So I'm excited for that opportunity and the recognition.
And I'm going to have that in the tease before the show. We got a Hall of Famer on the show. So I'm not going to give specifics. They can let their minds wander where it is, but that's still really cool, man.
Well, and a future Hall of Famer, this is just an anticipation of Aaron Rodgers making the Hall of Fame. That I'm talking to a Bears fan. I had to work Aaron Rodgers in. Sorry.
That's okay. We know it's going to happen. He's slaughtered us for years. So I accept it as fate that it's going to happen. But anyways, so Jeff, let's do a real quick revenue rundown so everybody has some context on, where your company is at in the journey. So where are you at in terms of ARR?
Yeah, that's a bit of a longer story, but we play in the hospitality space, and specifically, we're focused on groups and events. And clearly, with the pandemic, hospitality and meetings and events were decimated. We are a shadow of where we were pre-pandemic, but we're still healthy and profitable as a company. We expect to finish this year just above 20 million in ARR. And we're clearly in a recovery phase.
Yeah, no, and we'll get into that in the episode because I'd love to hear the details of that. And then what's your primary go-to-market strategy for revenue growth?
In looking at it, our initial focus with the TAM that was defined as I stepped in, and I've been with Knowland now for just almost at 1 full year, is we are, and you had mentioned it, started with we're a SaaS-based business. We're described as data as a services, and I like to say it's more about insight. It's not the data itself, it's what you do with the data, unlocking the value. So we're insight as a service that is focused on hospitality, and that's the hotel business. We work with our hotels, and our primary value prop is fairly straightforward, and it's focused on helping our hotels understand how they are doing in selling meetings and events and filling event space. So competitive set intelligence and a scorecard of how we're doing. Where the real value in the service that we provide is we take the data that we have collected, and we have data for over 20 million actualized events over the history of Knowland, and we are continuing to add thousands of events on a daily basis, is creating and taking that data and actionable insights. Think of it as lead generation, helping hotels understand how they can sell better, how they can get out in front of RFPs, and to fill their hotels with more profitable business. So think of it as a competitive set intelligence and a sales enablement platform for hospitality.
Okay, cool. And so do you do that um, through predominantly sales, marketing, product led? Like, what's your motion in terms of how the team executes on that?
So, obviously, a company is not, have a great foundation without people and product. And, Ryan, we look at it, well, we are obviously a Salesforce organization, recognizing and ensuring we have a strong foundation. We have a strong product and a platform that we bring to market. Without that, we wouldn't be able to sell. As we are and where we're at right now in almost a restart phase, it's really, taking the product we have and bringing it and reintroducing it into the market. With the decimation in hospitality and the people we sell to are salespeople, and my sales team has a bit of a challenge. Salespeople selling to salespeople, it can be a bit of a challenge. But what we've seen is a significant turnover of people. People have left hospitality, either they were forced to leave because of the pandemic or chose to leave because of the impact of hospitality on pandemic. So it's a restart of how we sell and bring products and a reintroduction of a product set that has been in market for some time. But our growth strategy in our short term during what is very much a recovery period is focused on win back and bringing the customers back, getting us back to the levels we were in 19, reintroducing our product sets, reestablishing our relationships. So as we introduce new products and get through expansion as we look to next year and beyond, we have rebuilt the base. So predominantly sales led, but it takes the entire organization for sales to be effective.
Oh, definitely. Totally agree with you. And how large is your team right now?
Again, similar to our revenue, a fraction of where we were in 19. We're roughly 70 people today, and that's our full-time colleagues. We also have a network of consultants and partners that we utilize to be able to dial up and dial down. So all in all, if you look across our consulting and third-party partnership network, we're closer to the neighborhood of over 200 people, but direct staff members right about 70.
Okay, perfect. And then are you bootstrapped or funded?
So we are funded. We are private equity backed, although our founder is still a major shareholder and fairly active and engaged in the business, especially from a product vision standpoint. But we are private equity backed.
Okay, excellent, man. So that's a really good perspective. It sounds like you had some pullback because of the pandemic, which is totally normal. So, I mean, obviously you have some real unique experience because you have a combination of domain expertise when it comes to everything that you did at Hyatt, but at the same time, you got the SaaS side of what you did at TravelClick. So, can you just walk us through your story and how you got to this point, and what got you here? I'd love to hear that and just have an understanding of that.
Well, how much time do we have, Ryan? It's all right. So I'll try to speed it up, though. A funny thing happened on my way to becoming a dentist. Is I took a part-time job working at Hyatt, bussing tables, and I was still in high school, and I just fell in love with the hospitality industry. So rather than pursuing a career in oral surgery, I decided to jump in to hospitality. My degrees in hospitality leadership. Joined Hyatt many, many years ago as a corporate management trainee, and I was fast tracked to for general manager role. And a funny thing happened then is when I was ready for my next promotion, they didn't have a role for me at the time, but they said, take this temporary job working in our technology team, helping our operators better understand how to utilize technology. That temporary 6-month assignment turned into 6 years life-altering events. So if you ever take a temporary assignment, be careful. It could lead to something new and exciting. And that's where my passion, and I identified my passion for life. I consider myself a hotel operator first and foremost, and my passion is about providing caring service. Getting a taste of technology and the intersection of bringing hospitality and technology together and using technology to scale change, to enable change, simplify life, create better experiences, and ultimately drive results that matter is what really excites me. And I've worked on both the hotel side, many years, 20 years of Hyatt, two different stints equal. But then I've been a hospitality technology provider in a SaaS-based world, having worked both for Pegasus, TravelClick as their chief operating officer, and then at Knowland. So really having the understanding of the end customer and being able to think like a customer, understand the pain points that they have, gives me a bit of a better view, if you would, to help grow the business and help bring new products and solutions to the marketplace. Also, I co-chair the Vendor Advisory Council for American Hotel and Lodging Association, which as new technology is being brought into the marketplace, oftentimes the technology does not get properly integrated. And I think another thing we as the vendor community need to do a better job is working together. So how do we get SaaS companies to come together to not only help the industry, but also to help us build out our own business model, quite frankly, and earn a few shekels along the way. So I'll stop there. Much more in my past, but really that's kind of my journey to how I got into hospitality technology and involved in a SaaS-based in-say as a service company.
Yeah, I think that's a great primer. So how did you end up at Knowland then?
So I was extremely happy at Hyatt. I am who I am largely because of Hyatt. Great company, great culture, great vision. But as I told the president of operations every once in a while would say, Jeffrey, a flight risk, I said, only thing I have to worry about is if a private equity firm approached me that I respect and would consider working for, that gave me the opportunity to stay in hospitality, an opportunity to either be a COO in a larger company or a CEO in a smaller company, you don't have to worry. And I wasn't looking. Unfortunately, and I took a board seat with Birch Street, which gave me a little bit of a taste of what I remembered I really liked and working in that PE-backed world, and that introduced me to Sound Capital. And about a year later, as a result of the pandemic, Knowland lost its CEO to COVID. And it was a gentleman who I worked with at TravelClick, who was the CEO, a gentleman by the name of Bob Post, great friend and one of the best business mentors I had. So, part of it was answering the call, PE-backed, giving me an opportunity as CEO in a company where I'm passionate about the work. Hospitality will not come back until groups and events come back, so it gave me that opportunity to embrace that passion and help the industry through the recovery. And then that personal emotional tie, being able to carry on the mission and execute, of course, make some changes along the way, but execute the vision that Bob had put in place.
That's awesome.
Long answer, sorry, Ryan.
Well, not awesome that he passed away, but what I mean is awesome that you decided to pick up the torch and run with it. I think that's really cool and very unique, like you said. And I don't think there's anybody else who's had that kind of same journey as you. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So let's talk growth, right? Revenue growth with your business. What's right now? I mean, what would you say is your number one single biggest challenge with growing the company?
It is, in looking at, again, the constraints, is operating, within a constrained environment. We are still very much in a recovery and a restart mode. So being able to prioritize the work and focus on those items that get around those constraints and building back the ARR, addressing churn, and focusing and ensuring the base. Job one is recovery and stabilization of the base. Then as I look at what's beyond recovery, there are 6 areas where we have, as we've identified, how we expand our TAM, and I believe we have the opportunity over the course of the next 3 to 5 years to significantly expand our TAM and probably expand the TAM at least tenfold to a TAM opportunity of 800 to 900 million. But then as I look at how do I build that out, and knowing we have constraints, and you can't start on all 6 together, and it's prioritization of those efforts and being able to lean in on those items that are maybe a little bit less risky and less capital intense, but still allows us to get some wins on the board. Which builds up, and probably the shorter answer to the question is, coming into a company that was decimated by COVID, being in hospitality, being in groups and events, and then losing a leader who was very much respected, the company, the people, need to be built back up and focused on the art of the possible. And there are, opportunities, to win. In the last year, our MRR is up nearly 30%. Our customer count is up significantly. Our churn is down by almost 93%. So in looking at where we're at, and that decimation is get people to look beyond and look at the art of the possible versus the hell, frankly, that we've all been through over the last couple of years. But I am super excited. I'm not a maintainer. While I can maintain, I'm more of a builder. And job one is getting us back to where we were in 19, but then it's getting all those pieces in place to unlock more value from the data that we currently have, add additional data sets, additional products, and looking at international expansion as well to be able to tap in further to that expanded TAM. So
Okay.
despite the concurrent crises and that we're all dealing with, being able to still remain hopeful and put ourselves in a position to not only recover but take advantage of that TAM expansion.
Well, and let's so real quick. What was your ARR in 19? You mentioned it a couple times.
In
So
19, it was it was just over 30 million.
okay. So you had a drop. It wasn't you didn't get cut in half, but I mean it's still a sizable chunk. So of those 6 pillars or those 6 growth strategies, I heard you mention international. You know, what's the number one growth strategy that you're going to deploy to recover from this and grow to take your company back to the next level?
So, if we look at, and I'll hit on, the 3 areas from a growth standpoint.
Sure.
The first is doing something very similar that we were very successful when I was at Pegasus and we were at TravelClick. We started out as a North American company. And hospitality is, the hotel business has a lot of similarities globally. And the ability then, and the same types of needs, the same types of operational challenges, sales challenges, revenue management challenges, exist. So the ability to be able to take the product and bring it, internationally and sell it internationally, especially with building relationships at the brand level. So working the likes of a Hyatt, Hilton, Marriott that have global expansion, ensuring we have the solid relationships above property that will allow us to bring our products international. There's some things we need to do for localization, but I think our product is well positioned to bring it from to international growth expansion. Second part is, again, this comes back to knowing the industry and understanding the complexity. Hospitality, selling into hospitality is complex, but I look at it as opportunity as well. One would think hotel business relatively simple, but you have hotel level, and that hotel has a management team.
Mm-hmm.
But above that sits an ownership group, and the ownership group typically has an asset manager. You have the chain or brand, and you may have a franchise organization above as well. So there are typically four people involved that need the data and to be able to use the data differently. Knowland has been extremely successful selling at property level. And not that we've ignored the other three, but it was all focused on how we can help at the property level. We look at it from a TAM expansion opportunity to go above property. We can use the same data set to answer different questions. An owner has different questions. An owner may be owning multiple properties in their portfolio that may even cross multiple brands. We are in a position to provide that portfolio view or the wrapper for them to better understand the performance of their asset and how the team that they've enlisted to manage it are doing in effectively selling the assets. So international expansion is one leg of the stool, penetration into the enterprise and that above property piece, and then that plays into international expansion. The other thing is looking at just providing the insights or providing the data doesn't mean your end users really understand what it is that they need to do with the data set. And as teams have been decimated, not just within Knowland, but our customers, and they're rebuilding their operating model, this is an opportunity for us to redraw the line and where we engage and how we help the industry retool and rebuild. So there's also an opportunity to put a professional services wrapper on top that improves the stickiness, the engagement with our platform, and again, works to build that relationship as we bring new products and solutions into the market. As the saying goes, it's a lot easier to sell to a happy customer than go out and find new. So largely working on building, in addition to the insights as a services, a professional services wrapper, all built around continuing to reduce churn and increase upsell opportunity. So of the six things we were looking at for TAM expansion, the easiest to execute, and again, building confidence of the team and capabilities, those are the three we will lean into for 23 to 24. And then prepping for the looking at new products, introducing maybe while we're selling in the meeting planner space, in the hotelier side, which is the supply side, there's the demand side as well, being meeting planners, and there's an opportunity for us to then extend and look at ways to provide services and solutions to the meeting planners, again, using the same base of data. So there's a lot of different opportunities to work through for expansion, but I'm picking those that are lower risk initially, requiring less capital to start with, because we have to recognize we are still very much in a recovery and rebuild.
Yeah, I think that's a great strategy. So let me just well, first of all, before I do a quick recap, how much from those top three that you mentioned, I mean, ballpark, how much would you say your TAM expanded from X to Y, ballpark? And I know that's kind of a
That just by leaning in those three areas, looking at that will about 2.5, maybe 3x TAM
okay.
expansion.
That's
I
awesome.
believe that those three alone will enable us, again, setting the concurrent crises that the world is dealing with. You can't ignore it, but you can only work on that which worry about that which you can control. I see relatively clean line of sight to get the company to 50 million in ARR by the end of 25.
Okay, that's awesome. So let me just play that back to you. So the top three are, international, right? Then looking at the different levels, right? The hotel level, the ownership group level, the franchise level, and the brand level. Because the good thing is it sounds like you did really good at the ownership level, so they'd have cross-brand hotels. And then like I'm familiar with how hotels work too, where they have a GM in a lot of cases per hotel that has autonomous decision making. So you looked at kind of the decision making process, you looked at international, and then last but not least is the PS wrapper that you could get around that to not only get closer to your clients, but to provide stickiness and additional revenue for churn and upsell. So did I nail all of them? The top three, I should say. Okay,
Yes, you
cool.
did.
So that's awesome, man. 2.5 to 3x your TAM. So if you could, because this is a great exercise. Everybody always, I would not always, but would love opportunities to like, hey, how do we expand our TAM? How do we serve a better customer base? Is there like a framework, like a mental framework that you go through when you're looking at this in terms of like, okay, how do we approach it? I heard you say, what's easiest and most capital efficient for us to execute. So, like, what's your mental framework when you're trying to look at expanding TAM for just kind of any SaaS solution?
I'll step out of my role as CEO and kind of draw a comparison to one of the first things when I did at Hyatt, which was just trying to be a bit provocative. And this is not unique to Hyatt, it's across the industry, and I would say it's probably more broadly than hospitality, is people like to invest in technology and the bright and shiny objects, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't take the time to truly activate that and get the most value for the technology
Yep.
itself. And I said, coming into my new role, I said, the best thing we could do is stop doing anything new, stop buying new products, stop developing new products. Let's just take the time to focus on what we have and ensure that it's working, ensure that the hotels are getting the intended value for it, and to make sure it's great experiences for our colleagues, Hyatt employees, and the guests. And that's very similar to when I was at TravelClick. When I joined as chief operating officer, at a $30 million company, people were very happy and saying, our retention rate was 85% and celebrating. And it was well, okay, 85%, is that really something to celebrate? Let's look at the 15% you're losing. So in order to grow your MRR and grow your ARR, your sales team has to first recover 15% before they get anywhere.
Right.
So understanding why people were leaving, and within a year, we got our churn rate from 15% to sub 5%.
Wow.
And and it was as simple as monitoring customer engagement in the platform. How often are they logging in? Are they doing different actions? Fairly simple, and it seems common sense, but common sense isn't so common, is able to predict that 90% of the people who stop logging in aren't going to renew. And then when we dug in and found out that of those 90% that stopped logging in, the reason they stopped logging in is they went someplace else and they didn't retrain the replacement. We didn't know a new person came in, and therefore they did their job without the tool. So just monitoring engagements in the platform, and when something changes, to proactively reach out to the customers. I always like to challenge anybody who's running a customer success or support organization. Turn yourself into a proactive, outbound support organization. If you're reactive, it's too late. So job one is taking the churn rate and reducing that, and that makes your job that much easier from a sales standpoint. Making sure, one of the first things I did when I joined, is our customer sat scores were relatively solid. And looking at our product roadmap as a new CEO, I needed to validate if we were focused on the right things. And we did what's known as a SUS, software usability study. It's a standard 10-question survey that is done in the SaaS world. And we found out that our end users were generally very happy with the usability of the product and the tool. But yet we were spending more time and focusing on improving the usability of the tool. The further you got away from the end user and closer to the decision maker, that's where the opportunity was. And they didn't either understand the tool, didn't think they were getting value for price paid, or they wanted more from us. And so that opened up eyes and opportunity that we needed to focus more above property and enterprise and take that same group of product and engineering team to be focused more on what matters and move the needle. So in a recovery phase and working with constraints, it's very important to ensure that you are getting the most you can from the resources you have, and that understanding, are you really meeting the customer needs? So it's really much making sure your initial house is in order, you have blocking and tackling in place, you have a solid foundation in which to build, and that in and of itself, and just driving churn rates from 20% down to 5%. The math is pretty easy there on what that adds to your MRR or your ARR. So, focusing in on just ensuring the basics are there, get some wins on the board, get the team rallied around a common, cause and theme. Setting, I like to set either short or midterm BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals, are typically long-term. I have a tendency of doing those short-term, whether within a year or a 2-year horizon. Common rallying cry, fewer things we're focused on versus trying to do too much, and you end up doing not enough. It's just common sense, basic blocking and tackling.
Okay, I love that, and I mean, I was just doing some quick math, and one of the things that you identified is that reducing that churn from 20% to 5%, that for $100,000 deal, like let's say it's initial $100,000 ACV, that drives a lifetime value from 500,000 to 2 million, right? So like a 4x lifetime value, which is massive. So I think that's an awesome framework, and I went through a couple PE cycles, and there were some positives to it. There were some challenges to it as well. However, I think the capital efficient approach you're taking and really looking at focusing on what you have. So many people walk right by it, and it's really interesting because that's one of the reasons why I'm really adamant about companies using customer to prospect referrals. Because they'll if they don't systemize it, they've built up relationships for years and trust and equity. And I know when I have something that I love, I want to share it with my friends. And so it's just prompting them to do that, and then incenting them, and then just things pipeline takes off from it. So
yeah, and then you can extend it. I'm right there with you, Ryan. Client referrals, those are easier to sell and more sticky. And then you look at also ways to improve the experiences along the way. And it's not just on the front end, top of the funnel. How do you engage them in best practices and creating a community model that people are going through the same thing, and the opportunity to share stories on, here's a problem I'm having. What are you doing about it? And moderating a community where you're bringing like people together, also not just to sell them, but to get them excited and energized for what you're actually doing and getting more value.
yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're up on time, Jeff. But
That went by quickly.
I told you, man, it goes by quick, man. We just hit the questions, and a lot of these interviews like this, I could probably talk to you for another couple hours on it. But we do have day jobs that we got to go to. So, where can people find you? Where can they find more about Knowland? And then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, that's great. So the company name, Knowland, knowland.com, the website, people can reach out and connect to me through LinkedIn. I'm very engaged in social. That was one of the things coming in as a new CEO, getting comfortable in a social model. I never did posting before, and my marketer just keeps jabbing me to be out there. So check me out in LinkedIn. Honestly, I also, I learned so much more. And while hospitality is my blood, I've been in it since high school. I learned so much from others that are outside of the hospitality sector as well. So love to extend my network, Ryan.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the show. It was a pleasure. I love your perspective and some really unique capital efficient approaches to growing the business and reframing it, especially after it sounds like you took a punch to the eye, which is kind of the global situation on what's going on. So, but thanks for being on the show, man. It was
My
awesome
pleasure.
having you on.
Go Pack, go, Ryan. Good to talk to you. Take
I'm
care.
going to delete that part. That's getting edited out. I'm just throwing that in there. We'll see you on the next episode.